you bought your 500-gallon tank. Now you want to figure out how many garden beds you can irrigate with this tank and how much food you can grow. Well, you're in luck because we conducted some experiments with the students here at UCSC, and we have some results to share with you. So one of the people we work with in the community asked us how much water they needed to irrigate the garden, and that led us down this whole rabbit hole of trying to investigate how much water we needed to irrigate a garden bed. And in particular, working with these rain barrels over here, 500-gallon rain barrels, and we wanted to try to figure out how to optimally use this rainwater. So could you use this to irrigate 1 garden bed, 2 garden beds, 3 garden beds? And this led us down a 2-year research path.
Right.
The first year was totally decimated. James, what happened?
So we didn't account for this, but birds got to all of our lettuce, and which we were planting lettuce, we'll get into, and totally decimated our experimental crops. So we had no data to show for any of our work.
So we learned the hard way that the first thing you need is solid garden bed cover design, and we have a whole separate video on garden bed design. But in the end, this worked. It's a bit clunky, but we have this hard cloth and it fully encased the experiment. So this is the garden bed that we tested. It's 4x8, and we used these covers to grow our lettuces.
And we built 3 of these garden beds and separated them into 4 quadrants using galvanized sheet metal, which isolated the 4 quadrants to have different soil moisture conditions, which we'll get into how that ties into our experiments.
So here we're growing tomatoes, but for the experiments we're going to tell you about we grew lettuces for 2 reasons. One, we wanted the worst case scenario, so kind of the hardest thing to grow. Lettuces have short roots. Tomatoes actually have really long roots, but we wanted the short roots, and they're fairly high demand in water. So we grew lettuces for about 2 years.
Yeah, and they also have, you can plant them very densely, so we could have a lot of data points, and they're a very applicable food crop grown in the area, especially in Salinas, which is one of the #1 producers of lettuce in the world.
And they're also pretty expensive at the store, so in terms of like your bang for your buck, they'll go a long way. So that's why we picked lettuces.
We wanted to know how much water we needed to apply to irrigate the lettuces in this raised beds, and we tested 4 different strategies. One strategy was the one that is used at a farm here on campus at UC Santa Cruz. The second strategy was using an online decision-making tool where you type in some information that tells you how much water you have to apply. And the 2 other ones were soil-based, so we put in sensors, and using those sensors we determined how much water was needed. The irrigation strategies were different because we watered the treatments at different frequencies and different amounts at each time.
And so I would come in 3 times a week and use the methods that Chriselle just went over to analyze how much water and when to water, and simply fill up a pitcher with that amount of water, put it in a watering can, and water each quadrant according to its treatment.
Then we analyze the results. So let's talk about the results. So the 4 methods we tested, we found that the local UCSC farm method combined with weather data produced the best results because it used the least amount of water while producing the same amount of lettuce. And so that's our main recommendation. James will show you how to use that. And we also have a more detailed video coming soon with graphs and figures and all the results in the paper, but we wanted to spare you those details in this short, quick snippet video.
To briefly explain how the farm chooses their irrigation schedule, they use a local weather station that reads evapotranspiration data. Evapotranspiration is the water lost from evaporation from the sun and transpiration through the plants during photosynthesis. So each week, the irrigators find this evapotranspiration on this website and multiply it by a rough curve of how grown their crops are. So it's different for each field. But basically, if your crop is 25% grown to 100% grown, you multiply that percentage by the evapotranspiration, and that tells you how much water you need to apply that week. And you can schedule it however is convenient. And they do it on a 3 times a week schedule for a lot of crops. So that's the method that we use.
So here in Santa Cruz, we have a 6 months dry season. We're in a Mediterranean climate. That means we get no rain usually between March and October. So this is figuring out how much lettuce we can grow using this optimized irrigation system, using this one 500-gallon tank. So how many garden beds can we irrigate, and how many lettuces can you grow from March to October with no rain?
Well, of course, it's going to depend on the year and the weather, but roughly speaking, it's pretty safe to say that you can grow, or you can irrigate fully 1.5 to 2 garden beds over that entire dry period / growing season. And if you calculate that into how much food you're growing, given our lettuce planting strategy, you could have grown 500 to 672 heads of lettuce. Yeah.
Probably more lettuce than you will eat at home.
Correct.
So you can probably grow all your greens. Actually fairly easy to grow with a hydroponic system. It uses a lot less water. So I think one of the future directions is to think about, if we wanted to optimize the use of this tank to grow as much food as possible, would be using some of the water for a lettuce-based hydroponic system, and then reserving the rest of the water to grow crops that are not very well suited for hydroponics, maybe potatoes, carrots, tomatoes.
Right.
Don't you think it would be fun to kind of try to optimize
Yeah.
how to grow?
You can have more of a diverse food bank that
Right.
way.
So you don't have to eat 600 lettuces. But, you know, how many lettuces do we want to eat per week versus how many potatoes and tomatoes do we want to grow? And how can we make the most use of a 500-gallon water tank?
Sounds good.
That's the plan.
If you want to learn more, you can visit our website by scanning the QR code or by going to sites.google.com/ucsc.edu/rain-tanks and visit our growing food section for more specific information on the topics we've covered in this video.